What are you doing? Whoa, whoa. What are you doing? Whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you think you're doing? What are you doing? Hey, can you sit, please? Hey, Coda. Coda. Sit. Sit. Good boy. Welcome to the very first episode of Backyard Wetplate, or Wetplate in the Wild. I don't know what I'm going to call this series. Basically, it's just a channel for me to show my wetplate photography, and I probably should have made this channel a long time ago to start sharing my photography experience, but I didn't really feel like it was ready or necessarily the time. I guess there's never a perfect time, but for this specifically, I want to talk about how I got started with wetplate photography and what I'm doing now and how I'm going to continue to make plates on the property here. So I don't know what the official title of this series is going to be, but I just wanted to at least start something so that I have documentation of my wetplate process. I'm going to show you guys the Darkroom shipping container that I've been working on the past couple weeks, and just like my whole setup and process behind it, because it's such a cool and unique experience that I want to share with other people and hopefully inspire some other people to start making plates. For those of you who don't know, wetplate collodion photography is a historic photography process that was invented in 1851, and it involves making images on aluminum and glass. So you coat the plate with collodion and then bathe it in a bath of silver nitrate for 3 minutes, make your picture in a camera, probably a large format camera or a homemade camera, and then you go and develop and then fix your plate, all within around 10 to 15 minutes before the plate dries out, and everything has to be done very quickly. It's a very tedious process that involves a lot of chemistry and chemicals. Last summer, I spent 2 weeks at Penland School of Craft in North Carolina, learning from David Emmett Adams, who was actually one of my former professors at KU, who taught me and a bunch of other people in this course the ins and outs of wetplate photography, including tintypes, ambrotypes, and how to make things in the field with a mobile darkroom. So throughout those 2 weeks, I had a pretty immersive hands-on experience on how to do this, and it's been my goal to be able to do this at home and make this part of my daily practice, or weekly practice at least. And so this video is kind of going to be an introduction on my darkroom container, my setup, and how I'm going to start making plates around here, and hopefully start doing this out in the field in the Flint Hills, Colorado, wherever else I can do this. So I'm going to take you guys into the darkroom and show you guys my setup out here. First and foremost, I wanted to utilize a shipping container, one, because it's pretty badass. Number two, because the chemicals involved are not friendly to the human body, and so I wanted to keep them away from where I live, especially when I'm pouring them actively and using them. I store them in there in a fire-safe cabinet, but when I'm using them, I keep everything in here. Eventually, I want to have plumbing and proper electrical and a sink in here, but for now, it's just a Harbor Freight workbench with all my stuff, which works fine and is great, but I definitely want flowing water and access to a larger space, but it is pretty good for right now. So this is the setup back here. Pretty basic, just have a Harbor Freight workbench with all my materials. I have storage containers for chemistry, distilled water, gloves, funnels, eye protection. This is my silver nitrate tank that I got from Zebra Wetplate off Etsy, along with my 4x5 plate holder. amber bottles came from B&H, gloves, and then you always need to have a haz waste barrel because everything that I do cannot be just dumped outside unless it's water. Everything has to be put into a haz barrel and then disposed of properly. So when I'm working out here and everything, I make sure that it all goes back into that barrel. As simple as it is, it took me at least, I don't know, a month to get everything set up, from ordering, planning, waiting on deliveries. These zebra plates came all the way from Slovenia and it took forever, but it was worth the wait. Everything's all set up now. Part of the reason why I love wet plate photography so much is that I'm constantly doing digital work and doing commercial digital work, which I love, but being able to implement a physical practice and actually get my hands on something, like there's no better feeling than that. And so this process has made me fall back in love with photography in the first place, which is why I'm doing all of this. So when all of my materials got in and I finally got my tank and my plate holder and everything ready, I was so excited to get everything set up and just start making plates. So I poured a batch of developer, I poured a batch of fixer, and I started going to town. And honestly, I should have waited because I was just so excited and I forgot a couple steps. It's been since August since I last made a plate, and so there were a few hiccups I finally got out of my system. But now I'm gonna kind of walk back through some of those parts. I took some BTS of it, and so I'm gonna show that now. It was definitely a challenge trying to remember everything, but after the first couple of plates, I had some successful ones. Finally got things dialed in, and now we have a full day of sun, so I'm gonna get back after it and try and pour a couple plates here. Now what we need to do before we do that, I need to make a new batch of fixers, so I'm gonna go grab all my chemistry from the house, bring it out here, and we're gonna pour a new batch. Okay, so I have pretty much everything that I need to make a batch of fixer now. I also wanted to show that I got this drying rack from Zebra plates, also from that same Etsy shop. And then a 4x5 plate safe box here. So first things first, before we start touching anything, need to get some PPE on. All right, so we have the fixer that's been poured. We have put our silver nitrate solution into our tank, and we've got our plate holder that's been cleaned with distilled water. Having everything clean is one of the most important parts of this whole process. If you have leftover silver nitrate or collodion or anything left in your tank or in your plate holder from the last shot or the last session, it's gonna have a part in messing up the development of your next plate. So whenever you're done shooting or you finish a plate, you always need to wipe down your plate holder with distilled water, including the dark slide. Every single piece of it needs to be clean. And it's annoying, yes, but it's part of the process and part of the hands-on, I guess, experience of the whole deal. I also forgot to mention that I'm using the John Coffer method, using old workhorse collodion and silver nitrate, 9%. This is all pre-iodized from UV Photographics, and then the rest of my stuff I bought from Bostic & Sullivan. So got our fixer, our silver nitrate, our collodion, our little beaker for pouring our developer. So I'm gonna get our developing trays laid out and everything organized so that we can be ready to make our first plate. So I'm going to pour collodion here, the first station, and then I'm going to wipe off the back of the plate, and then I'm going to put it in the silver nitrate tank for 3 minutes, take it out, put it in our film holder, go make the photograph, come back in, develop, stop, fix, and then we should have our picture. This is just trophy aluminum and it comes pre-cut 4x5, it's black, and then there's a piece of plastic on the front that you need to peel off right before you pour your collodion on. But I always like to just kind of start it because it can be a pain to get that going. All right, so we've got our collodion, we have our towel to wipe it off, we have our silver tank, we have our plate holder, we have our developer, we have our developing station, we have our developing beaker, we have our stop bath, which is just regular tap water, and then we have our fixer bath. Now that all this is laid out, we're good to go set up our camera, trying to figure out a good exposure, and then make our picture. My 4x5, which is a Graflex Crown Graphic with a Lenhoff 135 on it, and we're gonna go get it set up and figure out where we want to make our first plate at. So, you know, obviously it would be nice to get as many good plates as I can today, but with this process, just getting one good plate from the day is pretty satisfying and all that you really need. It'd be nice to get more than that, but I'm not really expecting anything else. There's this old bathtub out here that I've been wanting to shoot for a while, so I'm gonna frame it up and then hopefully try and get a good exposure here. Okay, so I've got everything framed up for the most part. I think I'm gonna go with the sun right here. I think I'm gonna do F11 at 2-ish seconds. So hopefully that works out. If not, I'm probably gonna do a test strip, but I honestly don't like doing test strips unless I absolutely need to. So I'm just gonna go ahead and test the camera, make sure it's firing and everything. Close our lens. 1 Ansel Adams, 2 Ansel Adams. There we go. So we should be good to go on this end. We've got our collodion, we've got our plate, we've got our silver bath here. Now we're going to set a timer for 3 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and pull the dark slide, make the exposure, close the shutter, put the dark slide back in, and then we're going to go develop this. And here we go. 1 Ansel Adams, 2 Ansel Adams, 3 Ansel Adams. developed here. So go ahead and put it in the fixer bath here. That actually turned out really nice. Pretty perfect development. Doesn't get much better than that. It's a little overexposed, but so I shot it at f11 around 3-ish seconds, and then developed for around 8 seconds, and then stopped it. The plate turned out beautiful, actually. And it'll dry a little bit darker, so hopefully once I varnish it and let it dry completely, it'll be nice. But I think we had a good, successful first shot here. I think we keep going. Like, I'm not gonna stop. So while that one's drying and washing, I'm gonna go ahead and find a new spot to shoot and probably stick with the same exposure time, since this one was pretty spot on. Could maybe go down just like a half second, but other than that, it's pretty spot on. So I'm gonna go walk around and see if we can find another spot. All right, so we found a little spot over here by the pond, and we're gonna shoot facing this trail right through those 2 trees right there. So we've got the crown graphic all set up, shutter release cable here. I'm gonna go ahead and get it focused up and then make our next plate. Set a timer for 3 minutes. I missed a little spot here. Didn't get that with collodion and down here, but other than that, it looks pretty good. Exposure's nice and perfect, and it's gonna dry a little bit darker, so that's ideal. Let's go ahead and get this guy under some distilled water and then onto the drying rack. Head over here and see if I can find something to shoot. So I really like the base of this tree right here. It's a little bit difficult to shoot because I've got light coming in from the back. Not a whole lot over here, but should be able to figure it out. Try and blast my highlights, maybe go like 5 seconds. I don't know, we'll see. This one's not turning up. It's very, very cloudy. You can see there's a little bit of detail there, but I think I just cooked it. So maybe we'll try like, I'm gonna go F11 at like 3 seconds. So stopping down 1 and then cutting back on my exposure time. Maybe we'll see how that does. All right, so this shot actually turned out okay. It was just super contrasty because of how much light's coming in from the back. It's just blasting the highlights. But I got a nice silhouette of this tree here and all these branches, so I think it turned out pretty good. I've got enough time left to do at least one more before the sun goes down, and then I have to clean everything up. But I'm gonna go ahead and grab my camera, grab this camera, grab a four-wheeler, and then make a shot of the four-wheeler back over there in the middle of the yard. So we'll do that shortly. So I don't know if you guys can see, but that's what we're working with here, and this is what I see. Everything in camera is upside down and backwards, so when you're focusing, right here, I'm moving my bellows back and forth to focus, and then I can adjust my rise and my fall for even more advanced shots, but this is pretty simple, so I'm going to focus it up and then get another plate loaded. We've got the sun coming in. It's going to be super nice. I'm going to be able to stop down probably at least to like off F11 or so, and then do like 2 seconds max, and we'll be good to go. I'm taking the plate out of the camera, or out of the holder, taking my developer. Two, three, four, five, and the picture's coming up, so I'm going to stop it. The final plate of the day turned out to be really, really good. Pretty much everything that I was looking for. I'm pretty happy. I think it's probably safe to end on a good note, start cleaning up. But yeah, that's a beautiful plate. So that's a wrap on today. I think we got four really good plates. There was one didn't turn out, but we were able to redo it. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Or don't. Any ideas on what you want to see out of this? I don't know. We're kind of just starting from scratch here, and so I'm excited to see where the series goes. But yeah, that's a wrap on episode 1 of Backyard Wetplate. So the final and probably most important step for the longevity of the wet plate photo is to varnish it, and basically it's just putting a protective coating on the top of the image. And so I'm using Liquitex gloss varnish. A lot of people use Sanderac, which is like a lavender oil varnish, but I prefer the Liquitex because it's way faster and you don't have to heat anything up. You can just pour it on, let it dry, and it's done. You don't have to get anything out. So there's really no right way to varnish. It's basically just however you want to do it, but I'm using Liquitex. But I wanted to show how these plates ended up turning out. So this is the tree trail shot. This is the contrast tree that we shot kind of near the creek bed. This was the messed up version. I'm not going to varnish this one. I'm probably just going to throw this one away. But this is the bathtub shot. So I don't know if you remember, but here, let me show this. This is the bathtub shot. It ended up drying way too overexposed, which is okay. I wish it would have turned out a little bit better, but I don't mind it. I'll probably end up reshooting this just so I have a better image, but it just dried way too bright. And then the final one, which is the four-wheeler shot. I don't know if you can tell, but the tones were really nice on this one. It's much easier to kind of guess the settings when it's in direct sunlight, as opposed to having some shadows and everything in the way, but that's what makes it challenging. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit in there, and then as I take the plate, I'm just gonna pour a generous amount onto here, and we're gonna go corner, corner, and then we're going to need some more there. So just kind of going around the whole plate, hitting this other corner here, and then I'm going to go back off, just kind of mixing it around here. Making sure the whole plate gets covered. And then I'm going to go back off into the container there. So I forgot to mention something. When you're varnishing, you want to make sure that there's no dust on your plate. And so I normally just hit it with some canned air or a blow duster, gets that dust off, and then hit it with the varnish. And also, if you're going to scan these plates to make digital copies, you want to scan them before you varnish them, just to get the maximum quality out of them. So this one's still dripping off here. I'm going to keep letting it dry and then hit the next one. Okay. Just going back and forth with that, and then I will pour off any excess, just like you would with collodion. Kind of wraps up the first episode. I'm not going to show varnishing the rest of these because it's pretty boring and you get the point by now, but yeah, this is the last step, and I typically like to do this like the day after, but I wanted these ones to dry out a little bit longer to kind of see how the tonnage would change. And so it's been about 2 weeks since I shot these, but yeah, here's to the next video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.